All right. Good morning, Milwaukee. It's a beautiful day. We got a little more rain because we need it. Uh, it'll be nice and warm and hot today. And it's also the last team meeting because we won't have a team meeting next week for the 4th of July. So we'll take the week off for 4th of July, let people reset, recharge. But I want to leave you with a few important messages today as to some of the feelings that I'm getting within the industry. And it's kind of a continuation of a lot of conversations we've been having around how people are feeling and how people are reacting. And I also want to challenge the group in your thoughts and actions, as I've kind of continued to do, because I think I need to help pull you through some of what it is that many people are feeling in our market as we head down to a lot of change that's coming, right? But first, I want to lead it off with mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. I always like leading it off to help us ground our group in terms of how the leadership team, what's our moral compass in terms of serving you and leading you. And two things I want to highlight today. First is creativity, ideas before results. Ideas before results. And there's a reason for that, and you'll understand that here shortly. Second is around teamwork. Together, everyone achieves more. And it's interesting. There was an interesting dialogue last night around the Facebook chatter. And Callie Adler seeking some feedback around a co-broke conversation around commission and putting it in there. And, our recommendation of putting it in writing so that it's more acting as an insurance policy, and somebody else kind of challenging it. And then Callie and I had an exchange this morning so I can better understand the context where people were coming from. And what I learned was I'm realizing that many in our industry aren't paying attention as to the impetus of change that's coming. And so they're just operating as they always have. And what I'm learning too is that, as I've said many, many times before, it's not an us versus the world scenario. It's an us rallying together as a community, Shore West, First Cyber, Coldwell Bank, or Remax, whatever it might be, and leveraging our position as an incredible training and education company to help uplift the industry, because the industry needs to be uplifted together. And so two thoughts I want to share with you as it relates to that as we head into the conversation this morning. First, someone shared with me an interesting quote around change and how people navigate change. And to have sustainable impact as a leader, your rate of learning has to be greater than or equal to the rate of change. To have sustainable impact as a leader, your rate of learning has to be greater than or equal to the rate of change. Learning has to be greater than change. It's not our abilities to show how good of a leader we are, it's our decisions. And it's a good quote as a follow-up to last week's conversation all around your actions and habits lead to the byproduct of your outputs. And that in a moment of in the environment that we're in, our rate of learning has to be greater than or equal to the rate of change. Now, something else I'd like to share with you, and this is probably one of my favorite 3-minute videos that's ever been sent to me. And I've shared this with this group. If you've been around for a while, you've probably seen it, but I think it's a really good reminder for where we are through the first 6 months of the year, and knowing that we're continuing to change as an industry, and that we have a responsibility in terms of wrapping our arms around our peers and helping them navigate the change and helping them understand what their value is within helping their clients navigate a complex transaction in order for them to get what they're worth. And I think this is a great reminder to the group, is to not get too excited around what is happening within our industry, and let's wrap our arms around those that we have. So take a listen.
Take care of each other. The United States Navy SEALs are perhaps the most elite warriors in the world. And one of the SEALs was asked, who makes it through the selection process? Who is able to become a SEAL? And his answer was, I can't tell you the kind of person that becomes a SEAL. I can't tell you the kind of person that makes it through BUDS. But I can tell you the kind of people who don't become SEALs. He says the guys that show up with huge bulging muscles covered in tattoos, who want to prove to the world how tough they are, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who like to delegate all their responsibility and never do anything themselves, none of them make it through. He said the star college athletes who've never really been tested to the core of their being, none of them make it through. He says some of the guys that make it through are skinny and scrawny. He said some of the guys that make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He says, however, all the guys that make it through, when they find themselves physically spent, emotionally spent, when they have nothing left to give physically or emotionally, somehow, some way, they are able to find the energy to dig down deep inside themselves, to find the energy to help the guy next to them. They become SEALs, he said. You want to be an elite warrior. It's not about how tough you are. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how fast you are. If you want to be an elite warrior, you better get really, really good at helping the person to the left of you and helping the person to the right of you. Because that's how people advance in the world. The world is too dangerous and the world is too difficult for you to think that you can do these things alone. If you find your spark, I commend you. Now, who are you going to ask for help, and when are you going to accept help when it's offered? Learn that skill. Learn by practicing helping each other. It'll be the single most valuable thing you ever learn in your entire life. To accept help when it's offered and to ask for it when you know that you can't do it. The amazing thing is, when you learn to ask for help, you'll discover that there are people all around you who've always wanted to help you. They just didn't think you needed it because you kept pretending that you had everything under control. And the minute you say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm stuck, I'm scared, I don't think I can do this, you will find that lots of people who love you will rush in and take care of you. But that'll only happen if you learn to take care of them first.
There you go. I think it's an incredibly appropriate message on where we are as an industry and where some of the feelings that you might have and how we navigate through what it is that we're going through as an industry. And many of our peers need help. And they're too afraid because their egos are getting in the way of asking for help or helping or others helping others navigate what that looks like. So the reason I lead with that is I think it's a great and appropriate lead in.
Take care of
To our training and education. And what do we have coming up in June and July? So if you're on the ALC, I need you to hone in here for 2 seconds, okay? Because we have a combined ALC event this week, Thursday, that I'm incredibly excited of, a curated content that I put together for you, okay? And on Thursday, if you're a part of the ALC, we are meeting as a group from 11 to 1 at Merriman Social. And I have asked one of my probably most accomplished friends that I've ever met in my entire life to come pour into you. His name's Jeff. What you need to know about Jeff is a graduate of the Naval Academy. He went to Oxford. He also has his MBA from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. He was a Truman Scholar. He was a Top Gun fighter pilot. He had 3 deployments in the Middle East. He has worked in the White House in the Office of American Innovation, and he is currently the president of GH Smart. GH Smart is a global consulting firm that helps Fortune 500 companies to solve their most critical business leadership challenges. He finds CEOs, he finds board chairs, he helps identify companies as to who and what they should be hiring and the characteristics they should be looking for. And Jeff has graciously given us about an hour to an hour and a half of his time to pour into our group of 60-ish of our top people on the ALC, and we're having lunch with him on Thursday. So if you're part of the ALC and you haven't been paying attention to your emails or your calendar invites, I just wanted to tease you as to what it is that I'm bringing to you on Thursday to pour into you from a leadership perspective. He's going to talk about his time in the military. He's going to talk about his time as a fighter pilot. He'll talk about his time and what he sees in finding today's leaders of some of the largest organizations in the world. And Jeff's an incredible guy. So I look forward to that on Thursday with our ALC. Next up in the month of July, we have Ignite. And I've asked a handful of people who have gone through Ignite to share with us their shared experiences as to why they attended Ignite and why it is that what it is makes Ignite so special in terms of the return on the investment of their time, because Ignite is free in the month of July. It always is free. And the best part about it, just as Simon Sinek poured into us this morning, is all around learning from those to the left of us and learning from those to the right of us. So with that, Annie Jerzyk, why did you take Ignite? Tell us a little bit about your experiences within the Ignite world.
Thanks, Charlie. Had a 35-year career in the nonprofit world and decided to switch it up for my last job and become a realtor. And so I quit my job, started studying for my real estate exam in February, and at the same time, Ignite was happening then as well. The real estate exam taught us law, but Ignite taught us practical things that could really launch your career. So right away, it was teaching me about my database and the importance of reaching out to people just to let them know that I was going to become a realtor. And so it was really crucial learning the practical aspects. And then you layer on the productivity coaching, and it was a great way to really kickstart my career. And so I've taught Ignite in the past. I still go to 1 or 2 classes every session because I really think it's great to hear from someone else how they do their business and make tweaks to my own from that.
Annie J, appreciate it. Perry G, how about you? You came from a different environment. You jumped into Ignite. Share your experience around the Ignite.
Absolutely. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my little bit of information. I'm a firm believer that, if a leadership position is asking you to say something to the crowd, they don't take that lightly. So I appreciate that. So with Ignite, here's what I would say coming from a different environment, coming into this, wonderful community that's welcomed me, is 2 things. Ignite is like the matchstick in the match that ignites you, which is the pilot light for your journey. And in addition to that, it's the architectural blueprint to the foundation of your business, because she's correct. The lady who was just on before me is, yes, you went through all of that time to get your license, but all they taught you was contracts. Great. Well, what do you do from there if you don't have the systems, processes, and procedures to be able to get things under contract? And this is what Ignite's going to do. So is it free? Yes, but what I always tell everybody is that your time is the most valuable asset that you choose to give away. So why not invest it in something like this, where all of these leaders who specialize in a specific topic for that event are volunteering their time to pour into you. And that's a true blessing. So that's what I've learned out of Ignite.
Perry G, appreciate it, brother. Mary
Thank you.
Walgreen, last one. How about you out in Lake Country?
Sure. Thanks, Charlie. So I also came from a different career. I was an interior designer for 35 years, and I also am an educator in the interior design world. And as I was nearing retirement, I wanted to try my hand at real estate. It's been something I've always wanted to do. I took the test in November, December, and was feeling as though I knew a lot of technical skill, but I didn't quite know what to do. And when Ignite came about in January, it felt like the right timing to really devote and commit myself to my future career. And it was the perfect timing and the perfect mix of motivation and personalities. It allowed me to see how other people adapted the various systems that Keller Williams provides. And it really gave us a kind of a step-by-step map in terms of how to set up our own business and how to adapt the systems to our own personality and our own business style. Above all else, I found it incredibly motivating. Every day I would make the trek from Dousman to Whitefish Bay and spend the morning with you all. It's a major time commitment, but every night I came home just completely motivated with loads of notes. I still have a binder. I continue to reference it. I'm constantly referencing the shared resources and documents that everybody was so graciously providing to each of us. And it's just an amazing way to kickstart, motivate, and recognize that we're not out there on our own. As much as we are independent consultants, every single person teaching in the Ignite program offered up their contact information, their resources, their time, and they are continuing to be valuable partners. So I highly recommend it.
Mary, appreciate your perspective. Annie, thank you very much. Perry eloquently said, and Mary appreciated it again as well. Guys, Ignite's going on in the month of July. You don't have to be new to take it. It's all about learning from those around you and how they're navigating what it is that they are masters of. Now, moving on to learning is greater. You have to learn at a greater rate than the rate of change. June, you can see here for the last week of June from a training and education calendar. In the month of July, we are leaning heavily into the Ignite calendar. Again, as Annie mentioned before, she jumps into portions from who she wants to learn from. So feel free to jump into portions that you desire. Next up, Stonehouse Collective, a new shop on Oakland, is hosting the group for anyone who would like to participate for a sip and shop on July 10th. Feel free to scan this here. Also sponsored by Jenny Kluger at the APHW. This is Mega Camp, not average camp. You want to participate in Mega Camp, not average camp, join us in August in Austin. Enough said. Also, in the last week for the month of June, we are collecting for the Courage MKE food drive, accepting non-perishable food items at all office locations. So feel free if you have things that you need to clean out your pantry from those Bush's baked beans from last summer, but are still good and not expired. We would love to have them. We are collecting them for you. Also, as a reminder, for those of you who haven't checked your bank accounts, there were some significant contributions in the profit share tree. And it was amazing some of the texts I received. Stillman, I loved it on Saturday morning. It changes people's lives. If you don't understand the power of profit share, it can absolutely change your life. There was $112,000 that was paid out on June 21st. And it's powerful for what it can do for people, their families, and how it helps you grow through the power of profit share. Next up, Lieutenant Kennard. We had an interesting conversation with the WRA this week, did we not?
I think Miss Joni is on
Oh,
today.
Sheriff Reed. All right, Sheriff Reed.
We're both here. We're both here.
All right.
Go ahead.
Don't get in a crash.
I won't.
Sheriff Reed.
Yes, good morning to everybody. Well, we're going to take these team meetings and just work out each one of the different changes that we're seeing. If you saw the mention from WRA or from Steph last week, there will be new forms that are coming out. They are mandatory in August, but they will be available the 1st of July. But one of the new forms, not an adapted form, but a new form, is a pre-agency showing agreement. We were told earlier that we would have to get buyer agency agreement before we even showed a house. And a lot of us knew that that was not going to work. I mean, you really have to work in a relationship to get buyer agency, and you may not want buyer agency with some buyers. So they have wisely come up with something that you need to understand. There will be a new form. It's a pre-agency showing agreement. So when you first meet somebody that wants to see a house, you don't have to get them committed to buyer agency at this point. You ask them to sign this pre-agency showing agreement. And we all remember what pre-agency is, but this is a reminder. It's created to meet the settlement agreement, requiring a written agreement before touring a home. So it won't be a buyer agency agreement. It'll be this pre-agency showing agreement. It's to be provided in pre-agency. And if you ever did pre-agency, you remember that you were neither a client, the buyer is neither a client or a customer. You are not representing them at this point. You are helping them look at a property. You can skip the pre-agency and go right into customer or client and provide those disclosures or agreements. So you don't have to do the pre-agency if you and the buyer agree to either be a customer or a client. Just remember one thing: when you are in pre-agency, you are not negotiating for this buyer. You cannot help them write an offer. In pre-agency, you would have to choose customer or client of a buyer's agent before you write an offer. And remember, in any kind of negotiations, you need to have a client or customer relationship. If they are a customer, there are certain guidelines of what you can provide and what you cannot provide to a customer. They're all a lot more services that you can offer a client rather than a customer. So make sure that this buyer understands the difference between the two and also understands the power of negotiation. You must have a client or what? Go back. You must have a client or a customer to negotiate. The form, this new form, educates the buyer about pre-agency, what agents can and cannot do in pre-agency, so you and the buyer can review this and decide what they want, what kind of representation they want. This new form is not an agency agreement. It incorporates all of the legal settlement language of transparency that we are making sure that the buyer is aware of. And WRA will be providing separate education on this form and others. So we will be providing that. When is a written agreement with a buyer required before touring a home in Wisconsin? If it's a listing agent or a sub-agent, say you're working for the listing agent at an open house, written agreement is not necessary. But if they are a buyer's agent, you need the written agreement. If it's pre-agency, you haven't made a decision yet, you still need the written agreement. Next slide. So this is the legal description of the Wisconsin statute of what pre-agency is. I'm not going to read it, but it is available to you to understand what you are doing when you are in pre-agency. It's not an agency agreement. It's not a sub-agency agreement. You are not representing anyone, but just actually handling the showing. Next slide. So we will be having training and practices throughout July. The WRA will, GMAR will, we will, and we are also available for phone calls. So make sure that you reach out and don't assume anything, don't guess at anything. Make sure you know what you're supposed to be doing. So what you're going to learn is, how to explain to a new buyer what your duties are. If you're the listing agent, you will need to be in a customer agency with the buyer because you represent the seller. If you do not represent the seller, you need to educate the buyer on buyer agency and become a buyer's agent. You need to explain, and this is the critical part, buyer agency compensation. It has to be transparent and it has to be clear on what the buyer in this representation is responsible for. You need to have buyer agency if the buyer is asking the seller or buyer's behalf to compensate the buyer's agent's firm in the offer. No, that didn't correct. You cannot put in the offer on buyer's behalf, seller to compensate buyer's agent if you're not a buyer's agent. So, reminder. Next slide. That has to do with what this is something new, but I want to remind you all, we are in this together. We're learning this. As Charlie said, we are here to support one another, and there will be some changes, but they're going to be good. At least the WRA is stepping up with new forms. This just came up, and Steph and I want to make sure that it's important to all of you to realize sometimes you're a seller, you have a listing under contract, the seller will get someone to contact them directly, come to the door. Sometimes you'll get a call wanting to see the house, like right now, I'm in the neighborhood, can you show me this house? You know, that's the sort of red flag that should pop up in your head. Usually most of the buyers are going to come through with another agent or they'll contact you through your site, but be cautious about meeting a stranger without any background at a house, at a property, or consider if it is somebody that your seller is approached by, that you tell the seller to contact your listing agent right away, and not to let anybody in. So be alert to all of this. Anybody asking to meet you at the property, educate your seller not to allow anyone off the street. The seller needs to call the listing agent properly. The person insisting they have cash, the person won't agree to meet at the office first, which is our best practice.
Just have your antennas up.
Totally.
Real scenario that happened over the weekend. Okay. A customer called a listing agent and said they wanted to buy the house they had listed and they had a black duffel bag at $2 million. Okay. And they were incredibly aggressive about it. Okay. You have to have your antennas up. Second thing, you think I'm kidding. I've had people show up at the office trying to buy a property. I didn't believe that they wanted to buy it in cash, and they dumped $200,000 in cash on the conference room table. True story. Okay. You wouldn't believe some of the stories we have. Joni and I could write a really good book, but here's my point to it. Same property, separate scenario. A buyer's agent was showing the home. Somebody showed up, was very aggressive about wanting to see the home and get into the home. The buyer's agent allowed a few days to pass before notifying the listing agent. Okay. You need to be paying attention. And if you're in the buyer's agent scenario, it's like the old adage that the TSA reminds us. If you see something, please say something. Okay. We are representing people's largest financial assets on their balance sheets, a lot of times that have many valuables on the inside of their home. If you see something that seems out of whack, please make sure that you're notifying either the listing agent if you're the buyer's agent, or the listing agent, making sure that you're taking appropriate actions to protect yourself. And the last point I would make with you is you have to make sure that you're being consistent in your practices. Be consistent in your practices, because inconsistent practices lead to fair housing violations. Make sense? So it's a good reminder for the group, unfortunate reminder to the group, but these things come up and these things happen. So we wanted to make sure we brought it up to the group's attention. Vranik, new and improved single property landing pages. What do these guys need to know?
All right. Good morning. So it's been a minute since I've talked about any sort of upgrades, feature enhancements to Command, and I'm really excited about one of the latest, which is new and improved single property landing pages. So last fall, KW upgraded the agent sites, and with that came a lot of new functionality, a totally refreshed website, but we also lost some of the features that were part of the legacy platform. Well, they've slowly been adding some of these back, and they're back and better than ever. Custom pages came back a few months ago, and now single property landing pages are doing the same. So you'll see an upgraded, refreshed look, and there's some new kind of feature enhancements to these in particular that I want to go over today. And as you can see, just a couple of examples here, it's a really clean, refreshed look. So what exactly is a single property landing page? So it's a standalone page. It's separate from your agent website, but it's specifically for a listing. So you can create these landing pages for any property that is in the MLS. You have the ability to share the link however you'd like. If you want to create a QR code, have that available at an open house, at showings for your listing. You can share the listing details without someone getting lost on your website. So if you want to have it be a more clear, concise link, this is great for that. It provides excellent lead capture, and you have customization options, unlike the listing that would be searchable on your website. So you can edit that URL. You can also reorder the content on the page. So if you want to put a virtual tour towards the top, maybe your contact information below it, you can reorder those sections on this page. You can also hide or unhide certain details of the listing. So if you don't want to include the sales price, you can hide that. As mentioned, you can add a virtual tour, and you can add some more custom content. So maybe you have the floor plan photos and you want to specifically highlight those and just provide a description of it, you can add that piece of that to the landing page. So they made it really easy to add these. So if you haven't already, you do first have to upgrade your agent site. And once you do that and you get to the dashboard where you're editing your website, they've included a button under the quick start section on the dashboard, and you'll see property landing page template. So that's new, that's in there now. You'll simply click on it. It'll take you to the screen to edit. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to search for that listing, either by the MLS number or the property address. You'll select it. All of the property photos and the details are pulled automatically from the MLS. And then you can continue to customize the content for that page. You'll publish it, and then you'll have that link ready to go, and you can use it however you'd like. If anyone has questions on this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, but this is live and ready to use. All right, we're back for Social Branding Boot Camp this week. So if you want to learn more about Meta Business Basics and post scheduling, we'll be covering that. So if you're utilizing Facebook and Instagram and you were like, what the heck is Meta? What does this mean? What does it do? Join us on Thursday at the Innovation Office at 11. All of these sessions are on Zoom. So if you miss one, for example, last week we had Abigail Jacques on talking about Instagram, how she gets 85% of her business from Instagram. It was a great training. Highly recommend watching that recording if you missed it. But all of those are uploaded to YouTube afterwards. All right, key please. Haven't talked about this in a while. And as we always talk about, leverage is the new hustle. So what is key please? If you are new and you're like, okay, I've seen this, people are recommending I download it. Basically what key please does is it connects busy agents with available agents. So it's great for everybody. So if you need showing coverage, open house coverage, if you need someone to run a key or a lockbox to your listing, be it on home inspection, or if you need to just let somebody in, this is an opportunity for you to put out that request on the app and for someone in our environment to raise their hand and say, hey, I can do this. So it's an excellent opportunity for any new agents to get real firsthand experience in the real estate industry. So highly recommend everybody to download this app. It is exclusive to our Keller Williams Milwaukee network. So this is not other agents in Milwaukee, Compass, Shore West. Like this is exclusive to Keller Williams Milwaukee. When you download and create an account on this app, you're required to enter in your license number and the brokerage ID as well. So that QR code on the screen there, it's going to take you to more information about the Key Please app, including those brokerage ID numbers. So that's all listed out with more information on our website, including a link to download as well. So hiring agents on this app, you can set the price point, and all payment takes place very securely through the app. So again, one-stop shop for anything, anytime you need a showing coverage, or if you're looking to cover showings for another agent, everything takes place through the app. So any questions, reach out to me. New agents, if you are unable to log in, just shoot me an email. I will get you in. So typically the way that it works is we send our roster to Key Please, and they add everybody in, but sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. If that's the case, shoot me an email. And that's Key Please.
Cool. So I've noticed another trend. Many busy agents that are looking for help and support from a leverage standpoint. Leverage is the new hustle. I've also noticed another trend. People who are struggling to find business. You know what they're doing? Driving Uber, bartending, driving DoorDash, whatever it may be to try to make ends meet. And I sit here thinking to myself, gosh darn it. There might be a solution for someone to make a little bit of money and also gain experience in the industry, because practicing on your eventual clients becomes malpractice. That's the perfect marriage between a problem and a solution. The problem being busy agents, the solution being agents who are looking to gain experience. Why you wouldn't take advantage of these opportunities, to me, is somewhat of a kerfuffle. I can't figure it out. So just a little bit of a reminder around Key Please. All right. I am wrapping it up this week with some weekly market insights. And then I will finish with office operations updates. Okay. So here's what you need to know from a weekly market insights. I'm sharing this with you because I'm finding trends, and I'm sharing it with you on a very regular cadence so that you're paying attention. Okay. First of all, new units. Where do you see the trend? It's trending down. Okay. I'm only paying attention to trend lines. I won't get too much into the data or the details because I know people are visual learners. This is interesting because when I compared this versus last year at this time, we were still trending up. Okay. So something to be paying attention to that I'm watching on a weekly basis. How do you think that impacts the trend line on units that go under contract? Oh, sorry, total inventory. It's the inverse. Total inventory is going up. Why? Because the trend line on units going under contract is following the trend line of the new units coming to the marketplace. Now, I've shared with you some concerns I had around some softness that we're starting to see from a demand perspective. And here's the sales absorption rate on a percent of the inventory that goes under contract on a weekly basis, also following a similar trend line. Now, the reason why I share this with you is twofold. One, as I've repeated many, many times before, listing agents, you have to get ahead of trends. You have to get ahead of trends. Okay. The byproduct of this is days on market you can expect to start going up. We're already seeing expireds when people who've been on the market for a week or 2 weeks looking for their second agent already because people overpromised and underdelivered. And I'm sharing you with the trends in real time so that that doesn't happen to you and that you're right sizing expectations about the market of the moment today, not what it was 6 months ago. Okay. The second piece to this is it relates to things to consider on days on market in pricing. A home is worth the answer to the value question. What a home will sell for is the answer to a sales price question. Okay. Considerations to make. The most successful agents become masters on pricing and masterful in getting their sellers to trust their findings and act on them. Buyers are always looking for value regardless of the market. And the best way to serve a seller is to persuade them to outthink the other sellers they must compete against. What does their competitive landscape look against as they come to the market? Okay, some incredibly appropriate reminders. Now, that may sound a little like, whoa, it's June. Ugh, make you uneasy. As a reminder, I would also tell you in the next 5 years, I'm very bullish on our market because demographics at play. And I'll remind you, the largest demographic right now in the US labor force is the ages 21 to 33. The average age of a first-time home buyer last year was 33 years old, and it made up 38% of all transactions. So yes, is it concerning in the short term? Of course. Long term, I'm very bullish on the continued trends of the market and not anything you need to be worried about. But you do need to be proactive as it relates to trends because you don't find yourself there sitting with a listing and you have sellers that are freaking out 48 hours on the market because they think you didn't do your job. Make sense? So 3 considerations that I thought were incredibly important to remind the group. Buyers are always looking for value regardless of the market. The best way to serve the seller is to persuade them, outthink the other sellers, and you have to become a master at pricing and masterful at getting sellers to trust your findings and to act on them. All right. Lastly, I'll leave you with some reminders before we head into operations updates. I shared with you a model last week around mental resistance and being consistent. And I shared with you the x-axis of actions and habits and the y-axis of outputs. What I added is additional context for you this week that I want you to think about. Is this isn't direct, yes, it's directly correlative to your real estate business. And sometimes people only hear me say, do more, do more, do more, do more. Now, what I also want you to hear me say is it's incredibly applicable to the families and people you serve. It's incredibly applicable from a leadership team's perspective of the agents we are looking to attract and retain. It's incredibly applicable to our approach to our mental health and physical health. And it's incredibly applicable, and I think most important in our industry, is our personal financials. What actions do you need to take to create the output you desire? What actions do you need to take in order to create the output you desire? If you want to get healthy, you can't go to McDonald's and not show up and work out. If you want to save money for retirement, you can't spend every paycheck that you get from a commission standpoint. And you have to think about your actions and habits as it relates to the desired outputs that you have. And I wanted to create a follow-up to that, to last week's conversation, to say, this is incredibly applicable to anything in your life. Think about something that it is that you desire to change. What are the actions and habits you need to make first to get to the desired output? So, a little follow-up from last week. Now, I also shared with you a summer reading recommendation in terms of resiliency and consistency around David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. Incredible book for you to share. And as I lead into the operations updates and as the last team meeting for the 4th of July, I'd like to remind the group around a balanced life. Imagine life as a game in which you are juggling 5 balls. The balls are called work, family, health, friends, and integrity. And you're keeping all of them in the air. But one day you finally come to understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. The other 4 balls, family, health, friends, integrity, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, it will be irrevocably scuffed, nicked, perhaps even shattered. As you head into next week around the 4th of July, which to me is one of my favorite events of the year for a variety of reasons, I encourage you to think about how you take time in thinking about your 5 balls and allowing the work ball that is rubber. It's okay to let it bounce a little bit. And next week is a great way for that to happen in a way that you focus on your family, your health, your friends, and your integrity. And it's okay to take a timeout and pause during the 4th of July. Make sense? So in that spirit, a couple operations updates for you. 1, we're hiring and looking for talent. From a leadership team perspective, we have a couple roles we're looking to fill. If you're looking to join the leadership team, raise your hand, reach out to one of the team leaders. We're looking to shake the trees for our next talent. 2, we're more specifically seeking talent for those that might be interested in a compensated role around supporting the contract helpline. If you have an interest in participating in what could lead to a role on the compliance team or other roles within the leadership team, it's a great way as a segue into the organization in a somewhat part-time role for the contract to serve in the contract helpline. Second, if you didn't know, we signed back up for showing time and you have a choice. And guess what? I heard there was a little bit of an issue over the weekend as it relates to the other platform. So, showing time's back. Agents have a choice. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you have a choice to make and how it is that you decide to put your listings on what showing platform. 3, no team meeting next week, Tuesday, 7/2. And here is the follow-up to my balanced life conversation. I need to give our team a break. Okay. I do this every year because it's at the height and peak of the spring market. It's at the height and peak of change. We've dealt with a lot of change in our industry. And I need these guys on Thursday, 4th of July, ripping it up and having a great time with their friends and family. And I don't want them having the Thursday scaries, having to come in on Friday, July 5th, thinking about what decisions they made on the 4th of July they may regret on the 5th of July. I say that as a joke, but in all fairness, these guys need a little bit of a break, and we do it every year around the 5th of July. So as a reminder, the offices will be closed the 4th and 5th, which is next week, Thursday and Friday. If you are in and around the offices because you're hosting meetings or you're working in the spaces, please make sure that you're securing doors when exiting. Please make sure you're throwing away your food and drinks. Please make sure that you're turning off lights if you've turned anything on. Closing docs are put in the appropriate overnight files. And if there's issues, please reach out to someone on the leadership team so we can help you. Lastly, because I get it every year during the holidays, if the printer isn't printing, just check the paper. Okay. And I'd say that because, like, with everything we went through in June, like, these guys need a little bit of a time to recharge. So, commissions in command, we went through that. Guys, it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Thanks for jumping in. We will see you on Tuesday, July 9th for our next team meeting. Enjoy your time away. with friends and family next week for the 4th of July. ALC, I look forward to the conversation with my most accomplished friend on Thursday afternoon. Guys, have a great day. Thanks for showing up.